Everything there is to know about CLAT 2025, and that means you are going to learn about the eligibility requirements, the dates when you have to fill CLAT forms, the syllabus, different sections, pattern, and some tips from me. So my name is Pawan, and in CLAT 2024 I scored rank 11. This is my scorecard and a few news reports that were published around the same time. And so let us begin. What exactly is CLAT? CLAT is Common Law Admission Test, that is the full form, and this is an exam for admission into national law universities and various other good private colleges in the country for 5-year BA LLB program. Now, one thing you might be wondering, and many people do ask, is it CLAT 2024 or CLAT 2025? And this is a valid question, a good question. The thing is, CLAT has a different sort of schedule than most other entrance exams like JEE or NEET. So JEE and NEET happen after your board exams, but for admission into the same year, CLAT happens about 3 months before your board exam. So the CLAT for admission into 2025 batch would be conducted into December of 2024. So despite being having held in December of 2024, it is CLAT 2025. Now that is out of the way, let us understand who conducts CLAT. There is a body called Consortium of National Law Universities. It was not always so. It was formed only in 2017, and then they decided by rotation we will choose a president. 23 national universities are part of this body, and these bodies, this particular group of institutions conducts CLAT exam for intake of students into their BA LLB or other different courses. Now, we have around 23 NLUs. Like the country actually has 25 NLUs. If you do your calculation properly, there are 25 NLUs. One of them, NLU Delhi, it conducts AILET. It doesn't take students admission from CLAT. The other one, Prayagraj NLU, has been opened recently, so it is not part of consortium yet, but I'm pretty sure it will be part of consortium from next year, and it will also, this year also it is taking admission from CLAT. Next year onwards it will be part of the consortium. But that is not they are going to ask in the exam. So coming to the exam, first thing about CLAT 2025, some key dates. When exactly are the forms going to come? So because the exam is in December, forms come a little earlier in July 2024. The good thing is forms are open for some period, like 2-3 months they give, because this exam, there is not much competition. Like IITs have like 22 lakh people writing the exam. CLAT has barely 70-80,000. And if you combine CLAT PG, even then it barely touches 1 lakh mark, right? So basically, first thing is the forms open in July 2024 and remain open for some months, generally a longer duration, generally till November. The exam tentatively will happen in December 2024, and results are generally declared 7 to 10 days after the exam. So results are quite quick in CLAT. They release the question paper, answer keys, revised answer keys, and results within 7 to 10 days. This is a fast process. They are not very slow about it. Okay. Now coming to eligibility. Good thing is you are eligible. If you are watching this, you are in class 12th or you have passed class 12th, you are eligible to write CLAT exam. Why am I saying this? Because the eligibility is very basic. They require 45% of marks in 12th class. Almost everybody has 45% of marks in 12th class. This is the day and age where 80% is very easy to get. I am sure if you are watching this, if you are able to follow what I am saying, 45% you certainly will get, or if you have cleared your 12th exam, you have definitely got 45% of marks. Don't worry about it. Next thing, and by the way, for certain categories, there is 40%, but let us not go there. Secondly, there is no age limit. First thing, there is no marks limit. Secondly, there is no age limit. So marks limit is 45%, but age limit, why is there no age limit? Like IIT, you cannot write when you are 22 or 25. There is a certain age limit or there is a certain number of attempts. In CLAT, it is not so. You can take CLAT at a higher age, like I did. I am not exactly 19 or 18 or 20 years old. I took CLAT, scored a rank because I could. And why could I take this exam? Because Supreme Court said so. Supreme Court said that practicing law is a fundamental right. Anybody can take the exam, right? So there is no upper age limit. If two candidates have equal marks, how are you going to decide the ranks? First of all, a very important section of CLAT exam is legal aptitude. If you have higher marks in that, you will have a higher rank. And secondly, there is this criteria, higher age. In fact, I do know a person who scored the exact same marks as I did, but is ranked 12. You can see the interview with this person on the YouTube channel also. Perhaps you will have a card up there. You can click that and watch that interview. Lastly, if you are appearing in 12th, of course you can write CLAT exam. You don't need to actually clear 12th class to write CLAT exam. This year itself you can write. Why? I mean, they are saying 45% you have to get. The thing is, 45% to lana hai, that is true. But admission will happen in June, July or whatever, right? It's after May, after your results are declared. So then you have to show them that you have scored 45% or more. So that is not that big a issue. If you are appearing in 12th, you can also write CLAT exam. Now let's talk a bit about exam pattern, right? The exam pattern is how many questions are asked, what sort of test is that. First thing you need to know, it is an offline exam. It used to be online and there were issues with online. Some people actually hacked the website and showed that this is vulnerable. So they shifted back to offline exams in CLAT. And it happens offline. You have to go to a center. They will give you a pen and paper. I mean, you have to carry a pen. They'll give you a question paper and an OMR sheet. You have to darken the circles, bharo the golas, and then you are golden. So this is an MCQ based exams. They ask 120 questions till CLAT 2023. They were asking 150 questions. To reduce your burden, they have decreased the number of questions to 120, right? But what happens is, generally, one or two questions sometimes get wrong. For example, this year it was 118 questions that were actually declared valid. So final scores were from 118. Lastly, every question is of 1 mark each. अगर आप सही करते हो question तो आपको 1 mark मिलेगा. If you answer that question wrongly, you have to lose 1 upon 4 marks, 0.25 marks. So that is an incentive for you to perform more efficiently. Last thing, and I don't really like this thing, but this exam happens only in English language. There is no thing like in IIT JEE or in NEET. You can write the exam in multiple languages. You could get the question paper in multiple languages. Here it is only English. Having seen the pattern, now let us see what exactly is asked in the exam and how many questions from which section. So there are 5 sections in the exam, right? The first section is English section. I mean, it can be the first or the second, but that is how they have written in their website. And you have 22 to 26 questions. Now, this is 22 to 26. Keep that in mind very clearly that every year the number can vary. It can be 22 or 26 or 23, 24 or 25. It can be anything in between, right? Secondly, current affairs, including general knowledge, 28 to 32 questions, one of the biggest sections. Then legal reasoning, equal number of questions, 28 to 32. Then we have logical reasoning, 22 to 26 questions, about the same weightage as English. And lastly, quantitative techniques, which is a glorified name for mathematics. It is basically maths, that is 10th level. You have to score 10 or 14 questions, 10 to 14 questions. Okay, so this is the structure of the paper that you have to give. Now let us take a look at the syllabus of the paper one by one. Firstly, English language. One thing you need to remember very clearly, CLAT is a unique exam. Why do I say so? Because in every question, any question you take of CLAT, it will be based on a passage. Okay, this is the only exam in the country where even mathematics is based on a passage or general knowledge is based on a passage. So obviously English will have passages. You have about 5 or 6 passages in English, about 450 words each. So every passage will have 4, 5, 6 questions and you have to attempt those questions. So what are you going to do? Read and comprehend the main points, draw inferences and conclusions, summarize the passage, compare and contrast the different arguments. Basically, they are going to ask you questions based on whatever information is given in the passage. And lastly, I have treated this separately because it's a separate thing. You have to know the meaning of various words and phrases used in the passage, right? So it gives us an idea what exactly are the skills we need. Before we move forward, let me just stop here and discuss one more very important thing about CLAT 2025, and that is English, legal and logical reasoning have the same exact set of skills that are needed to clear the exam. Exact same set of skills. What are those skills? Let us see. So there are three skills that you need. Number one, a good reading speed of 150 words per minute. Why I am fixated on this 150? I'll tell you mathematically. So what I did is I actually went through this year's question paper, put it on Word. It was 13,000 words, right? You have 120 minutes to solve this 13,000 words. Read, perhaps reread and attempt. Of these, 20 minutes you will use in darkening the circles in OMR, right? Itna chahiye hi chahiye. So you have basically 100 minutes to solve this entire paper of 13,000 words. By the way, I basically attempted the entire paper, right? And I had a few minutes left, but I have a pretty decent reading speed and I had to reread a few passages. So basically on a safe side, you require 150 words per minute. Hope this is clear. Now coming to the next set of skills, that is a good vocabulary. Why am I saying you need a good vocabulary? Because it is written in the paper itself. Okay, we saw on the previous section that you need to know the meanings of various words and phrases. That is basically vocabulary. Third one is good comprehension skills. These are the three things you will require, not only in English but in other sections also, as we shall see. And this accounts for about more than half the paper. Basically, this is what will get you through. Okay, so let us move forward. Next one is current affairs and GK. Now, as I told you, this is a unique exam. Even in current affairs and GK, there are passages. This year, they also gave answers to some of the questions in the passage itself. So that is why you cannot leave the passages and directly go to the answers and answer them. I read the entire current affairs passages and GK passages this year also. You should too. Sometimes you don't know answer to a question, it might be there in the passage, right? So you don't want to do that. That is why it is important that you have a good reading speed. Now, what are they going to ask? Basically two things. Number one, contemporary events of significance from India and the world. And you will see here, international affairs. These two come under the heading of current affairs. Let us call it CA. Then we have arts and culture plus historical events of continuing significance, right? So basically this is history and culture. So we have two sections, not the entire static GK, but history and culture, that to Indian history and that to modern Indian history. There is no evidence that they have asked, ancient or medieval history, only modern Indian history. And secondly, you need to prepare this current affairs very thoroughly. In fact, it will take about half your effort for the exam. You have to be very thorough and very persistent with current affairs so that you may be able to remember it. Then we have a legal reasoning. Now, one thing I want to tell you is you don't need to know the law to do legal reasoning. Okay, keep this in mind. So legal reasoning is something where they will give you a legal principle or a legal rule or something, perhaps a law or something, and then give you a situation and apply the rule to the situation, come to a conclusion. It's very interesting. You get to play the judge. Basically, you are judging situations based on certain principles, right? And you don't have to have extra legal knowledge to do that. Seriously, you don't. But we'll come to the catch later on. Now, What do you have to do? Identify and infer the rules and principles set out in the passage. Basically, they sometimes give rules and principles. Apply such rules. Understand how changes to the rules or principles may alter their application, and if rules have changed or situation has changed, how does the judgment change? That is basically the thing. It's a very easy section. It does require some practice, but that is it. Next one is logical reasoning. Now this is important as well as a bit difficult for many people. Like, it is based on the same principles of English and legal reasoning, but it is somewhat more rigorous to do logical reasoning. What exactly are they going to ask you? Recognize an argument, read and identify the arguments, basically analyze what sort of arguments is this, or what is the pattern of reasoning, and what could be the consequences depending upon change in situation. Infer what follows from the passage. Sometimes they'll ask you to draw relationships and analogies. Sometimes they'll also ask you to say, if such and such condition happens, will it strengthen the argument or weaken the argument, so on and so forth. It is a bit technical, but it just takes a bit of practice. That is all. It's not very difficult. It is, I'll say, more difficult than English and legal reasoning, but not very difficult. Okay, let's move forward. Lastly, quantitative techniques. Many of the students who write CLAT are actually afraid of mathematics or quantitative techniques, and that is why they are taking this exam, because they don't want to go into JEE or some other reason, or they don't want to be a CA or something. So they want to be a lawyer. I am telling you, that is the wrong notion about it, right? This is a very easy section if you are thorough with your calculations. अगर आपको basic calculation आती है, this is not a difficult section. You can easily score more than 8 or 9 questions. Even if you score 4 or 5 marks in this section, you will be doing better than 50% of the students, because most of the students are very afraid of this section. I don't know why, right? So basically, it has numerical information given in the passages, and you have to apply various 10th standard mathematical operations. So 10th के ऊपर की maths नहीं पूछते. You have definitely done this maths, some basic algebra, mensuration, statistics, etc., etc. Basically, a syllabus of about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, not more than that. Now, a few preparation tips. First of all, you have to focus on English and whatever can get you better in this particular section. Because English, I told you, it is going to help you in more than 50% of the paper, right? 32 plus 26 plus 26. This is more than 75 marks. This is around 80 marks, which is a big chunk of your paper, right? 2/3 of your paper is basically English. So isko to chhod hi nahi sakte. You have to have good comprehension, good reading speed, good vocabulary in English. Secondly, GK, static and current affairs, I already told you it will require 50% of your effort. If you put 100 hours to your preparation, 50 hours will perhaps go in GK or current affairs. GK not so much, but current affairs a bit much. And current affairs, I don't mean read the newspapers and everything. You can even follow monthly compilations. I release a weekly compilation, you can follow that. Then mathematics, of course you have to practice a lot. Mathematics is entirely dependent on your practice. जितना practice करोगे उतना अच्छा होगा. Try for 100% marks in mathematics. You will already have an edge on other people. Now a question I am most often asked, is reading laws really unnecessary in CLAT? For sure it is unnecessary. You don't need to actually read the laws to score better in CLAT. But let me say 2 things here. Number 1, you should be aware of basic things about our constitution. Okay, that is going to help you. Sometimes they ask this in GK also, and this is going to help you a lot in your legal life also. Secondly, you don't actually need to read IPC or CRPC or whatever. Right now they are changing it to Bharatiya Sakshya Sanghita, Bharatiya Danda Sanghita, etc., etc. No. What you have to do is, if you practice enough, for example, if you practice enough passages, legal passages, enough mock tests, you will see a pattern. They ask from certain repeated concepts, and those laws itself you will remember while doing practice. So you actually don't have to read the law. What will happen is you will be able to imbibe those with practice. And what is to imbibe in there? Certain legal terms. Okay. Similarly, what are criminal laws, what are civil laws, basics of Indian judicial system or how the system works, that is all we have to see. Not more than say 15 or 20 days classes, including the constitution. Okay, so don't worry about it. You don't have to read the laws, you don't have to become a lawyer before you write CLAT exam. They are basically selecting you to be a lawyer. Lastly, you have to practice a lot, practice mock tests or whatever you can get your hand to. I provide daily practice passages for free. You can join our group and get it for free. So practice will give you confidence as well as strategy. Take a lot of mock tests, perfect your strategies with your mentors. If you want me to mentor you, please contact me. I'll be happy to. And give as many mock tests as you give, that will also give you a way to perfect your strategy, which section to do first, which section to do last. Similarly, it will tell you where you are lacking and how you can focus on that particular section. So that is it for today. I'm sure you liked this video. Please do subscribe. Thank you.